what you should spend, what you should spend, and when you should spend. And for me, this is about control. It has been about control when we won that case in the CBN. The other thing the federal government is talking about is so that they can actually monitor how the funds go out through the local government. But it's amazing in a country where the states cannot set up local governments, but you are in control of the monies that come to them. So where is the autonomy of the local government at the end of the day? So that's what this is about. But I know that they are still going to go ahead to the appeal court and then go on to the Supreme Court. Something tells me that when they get to the Supreme Court, they might refer to the Supreme Court judgment on local government and state autonomy and how money should come to the local government, whether it comes directly from the federal government. Now, what the federal government is doing is they're not challenging the fact that money should come into the state and local government joint account. What they're trying to do is ensure that they can monitor the monies that go directly to the local governments. And then if you say there are projects or activities that local governments are meant to perform, then they can also monitor that along with the states. Because, like I said, if it's the federal government that has the jurisdiction for creating local governments, how do they monitor the activities in terms of the budgets that come through the states and right into the federal?
But is it not something that we should question the way with which all the 36 governors in Nigeria decided to seek control over the local government funds? What the president was seeking to achieve with this was to let the local governments have the funds directly and do what they need to do at their local governments without interference of the governors.
What the Constitution says. So there's a Supreme Court judgment on this based on the Constitution as far back as 2003 or 2004. I can't remember the exact period. The Lagos State went to court in terms of that money should come to the state and the state is responsible for disbursing it. And that's where everybody continues to ask. Nobody has made those changes in the Constitution for local government full autonomy so that the monies are paid.
But we've also seen some governors refuse to give certain local governments, the funds that they deserve because they're not doing the bidding of the governor.
Well, I don't know about that. But what I can tell you is what the federal government wants is to be able to monitor that when the funds come in, the amounts that are meant to go to local governments go directly to the local government. Then you can monitor the activities directly. Like I said, if it's the federal government's responsibility to set up local governments in Nigeria, then they should be able to monitor the funds that go to them and the activities based on the budgets that they brought in, because all these monies come from the federation account.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, we've got this one in Vanguard News now. Nigeria records 3.11% economic growth in the first quarter of 2022. This according to the NBS, stating this in the Nigerian Gross Domestic Product report that was released this morning. Now, this showed a sustained positive growth for 6 consecutive quarters since the recession in the third quarter of 2020. Good news? No, Friday?
Well, good news that the growth is still there, but we really can't see that transcending into the overall GDP, because when you look at the GDP growth in quarter 1 of 2022 is still minus 14.6, meaning that yes, we're growing, but we still haven't been able to clear out the backlogs of the recessions that came in. And the growth in quarter 1 is lower than the growth in quarter 4, which is usually that way, because quarter 4 is Christmas, more money spent, and people now start to manage because of the activity. But we still haven't seen the direct impact on the economy. The rate of economic what's called velocity is still low. People, we still have more people unemployed. We still have less money in people's pockets because of inflation. So even if the gross domestic product as a whole is growing, the inflation is wiping in all the things that you have, and nobody is saying that in comparison to that. And that's why the overall GDP growth for me is still at minus 14.6.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's it.
Taking into account all that we're going through right now.
Yeah, the inflation is where inflation has hit 16 point something percent. So it's just been going in. So if it's going in this direction, it means that less value in your car.
Our analyst of Business Express last week said something about inflation, so that it's the greatest evil known to man. What would you say about that?
True, because the more you think you earn, the more you're losing. Because 1 naira today and the inflation rate grows by 1% means that you've lost one kobo. That's what it means.
Right.
And so if you were earning 1,000 naira last quarter December, and the inflation rate has grown by close to 2% over this quarter in comparison to the quarter, the value and there is a spiral effect.
So even though there's growth all around us, apparently in the
Apparently,
region.
according to the statistics.
Sorry.
I've just explained
I had to refill the gas cylinder. I gave me palpitations.
But like I said now, yes, there is growth in the real terms.
You see, this is the problem with statistics.
But
right?
then
You
that's
can
the
use
thing,
statistics
right?
to
We
achieve
need
any picture you want.
when we talk about, for the layperson, when we think growth, we think about something that should ideally benefit us.
And that's why those who report this news should do a thorough analysis of all the aspects that you consider in putting out whether there is a real growth in the GDP or not. Like I said, the GDP is still at minus 14.6%. So where really is the growth? So you just bring out the headline, 3.1% growth in GDP. Where? Did you look at all the statistics that you put into the GDP? So there are so many things that you need to do. And like when I first saw this headline and I was speaking to Justin Nelson, and the person was, wow, true. And by reading the story, the real catch of the story is right in, I think it's nevertheless, quarter on quarter real GDP grew at minus 14.66%. That tells you the whole story.
Just to be clear, when you say it grew by minus, what you mean is it's not growing. It's
going down.
It's negative.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Negative. That's why I said that's not okay. Negative growth of 14.6. Okay, so negative
it's going down.
Negative growth.
The thing is declining.
Okay.
It declined by 14%.
Sorry,
Okay.
Justin. Now we know.
All right. Today there's going to be a monetary policy committee meeting, right, to look at interest rates vis-a-vis our current inflation figures. Some people have said, oh, inflation is increasing, yet some business people are asking for a decrease, I mean, single digits for our interest rates.
I don't think it's going to happen. Something tells me they are going to keep the rates at what it is.
Or even more.
I'm not sure about them. If you do more, it means that the cost of doing business is going to shoot up again, because borrowing already
From our commercial banks.
is high. When you add the inflation to it.
You see, that conversation is, for me, is moot, because we're not even a manufacturing economy.
Yeah.
So when you say borrow to finance business growth, absent the context of a manufacturing base, it's nonsense. Because what are you then borrowing at single digits for? To subsidize an import-based consumptive economy. So factor in currency devaluation into that.
Yeah.
So
there are so many
creating
things.
chaos.
So you can't bring it down. If you bring it down to single digits, it means that your currency is going to be jumping towards 1,000 naira. Inflation is just going to sky because you're going to import more.
All right. Let's keep the conversation going. Now, you can be part of the show. Send it in your messages on WhatsApp. It's 0809-444-0981. We have some messages coming in already. We'll just take a few of them. Deji from Allen Avenue says, the loss of financial autonomy by the state governors clearly shows the level of gluttony and wanting desire to further render the local governments ineffective and make the third tier of government a better of resources, as we had in the last years. Kudos to the victory in court. And more messages. We have this one from Toyin. Toyin says, don't forget the LCDA are not recognized by the federal government like Lagos, and that has 20 local governments, so paying directly may not work. Toyin is in Surulere. All right, let's go on now. We have this message in from the Punch newspaper. Panic as gunmen issue ultimatum to withdraw soldiers from Southeast. Justin, let's come to you. Suspected killers of a lawmaker representing Aguata 2 constituency in Anambra State, that's Okechukwu Okoye, have allegedly issued ultimatum to politicians to immediately withdraw soldiers from the Southeast within 48 hours. Now, this ultimatum was contained in a letter found beside the beheaded head of the murdered lawmaker.
First off, really, it was tragic to hear that gentleman was beheaded and his desecrated body was handled in the way that it was handled by these animals who call themselves whatever they call themselves. At the end of the day, I hold out hope that we can somehow bring ourselves back from this edge where we're at, where the state, the Nigerian state, has lost the monopoly on violence. Every time that happens within the borders of any sovereign, prognosis is not good. At the end of the day, we are on a highway that leads to a very bad place. Humans like this gentleman who lost his life are now being held, the rest of us, the citizens, are now being held hostage by a bunch of faceless people and issuing all kinds of statements, withdraw the army, and it's a tough situation, but it's not unsolvable. The Nigerian state needs to set politics aside and address the myriad of issues that are affecting the Southeast. There are conversations that need to be had. The populace needs to feel included in the Nigerian conversation. You need to win the minds of the people, because a military solution to this, to my mind, will not work.
But looking at this ultimatum, should 48 hours elapse, that's 2 days, and the military is not taken out of the Southeast, what are we going to see?
I'm not giving it that level of
Attention.
weight. Yes. So they wrote a note and they dropped it. We're issuing an ultimatum. My fear is we will do what we know how to do best, bring the jackboot down, right? The East already has been a militarized zone for quite a while. And that is part of the problem, that you have just suspended the engagement of any other methods but suppression by force. What might happen here is the army will roll in, right? Kill the noise, send the dissent underground. As long as you do not win the hearts of the people, ideas like this and people like this, malefactors like this, will find a home, right? This is how Boko Haram became what it is today. If you do not address the heart and the yearnings of the people, you create a hotbed for terrorism.
Now, Justin, it's not just the army that is at play here, right? Let's take a look at what the police have to say. Now, we'll be taking this headline from This Day newspaper. Police decry indigents' reluctance to volunteer information in Anambra. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying, right? It's about engaging the people. So we heard from the state police commissioner, Echeng, who said that there's nothing unknown about the gunmen terrorizing Anambra State. And I'm going to quote him here. He said, "We are trying to mystify something that is not just there. It is time we go into demystifying these people. These people are not spirits. They live with us. They are our nephews, our cousins, our brothers, and they live in communities. We know who they are. The problem of security is that of total silence. Nobody sees something, nobody hears something, and nobody says something." So what would you say to the CP's assertion about security being collective, with everybody having their own part to play, especially as you've talked about, okay, what is there for someone to give up their nephew, their cousin, their brother, their uncle?
You see, if we start to unpack his statements, it scares me the more. Let me read another excerpt, the final part of his statement. He said, "We will not spare any of them. Forget the narrative they push that they live in the forest. They create that impression and then return to the communities where they live. What they have in the forest are just shrines, and we have visited and destroyed most of them. The criminals live among the people." That's a red flag for me. Because
Why?
what it means is, and this is taking the antecedents of the Nigerian police into account, the Nigerian military, all the armed forces into account. You will not, in the field of play, make the nuanced differentiation between the ordinary citizens and the criminals who you are now asserting live among the people. So it's going to be a free-for-all.
Now,
OD is on my mind. OD, Bielsa State, is on my mind as I say this. Since some people in the community killed soldiers, the army went in and leveled the place.
Now, Justin,
these cousins, aunties, these people he referred to, They are an endangered species right now.
Now, let me ask you a question, right? And Ode, I know you want to come in on this so you can answer this. You've already talked about that thing that we're all scared of, right? The looming specter of Boko Haram, because we're starting to see shades of how that situation unfolded and how we got this terrorist group that's, destroyed, waylaid, and devastated a huge part of the country. So, how do we then stop that from happening? Yes, you've talked about capturing hearts and minds and all of that, but let's face it, concretely, how do we do that?
It's been done in Nigeria, the Niger Delta.
Right.
So let's not make the mistake of thinking like Justin said. There are some things you need to sit down and let's address the issues. But the style, under the style of the OD, it was we put the jackboots down and then we send them into oblivion. When we never
Has that ever worked?
No, and we've seen it, and that's the way it has been treated in Nigeria over years. But when you see the part of the Niger Delta, are you with me? People sat down and there were policies that were formulated, real policies, and were implemented. And to a large extent, it brought a lot of calm to the Niger Delta. So if you continue in this, we would use the military or we use the security operatives without, first and foremost, what are the issues? And so it becomes an issue of trust.
In your opinions, and we don't have too much time now, why aren't we addressing these issues?
It's leadership. It's the style of leadership.
All right, we'll come back to your messages on WhatsApp. Keep sending them in 0809 444 0981. Let's take a break.
It's leadership.
That was loud.
See, Obasanjo is a military man. Stamp them down. This man is a military man. Stamp them down. You don't win anything that way.
And then it's the East, is those pesky Igbo people.
Eh? No. The issue is this. It's an ego issue.
No, the issue is this.
Okay, your messages.
So there are some messages. We'll take them. Then
And that's
we'll
why I
come
said
back.
leadership.
I wanted to take the next two stories, 5 and 6. So we can just touch on them in like 90 seconds.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're back in 10 seconds.
5 and 6. I'm doing 5 and 6.
Okay. So we'll take one for you, then one for Justin.
So let's do 5.
Let's do what?
Let's do 5. This
Okay, we'll do 5.
It's there. People should go and get vaccine. Take the vaccine. It's still available.
All right, we're back. We're getting straight to your WhatsApp messages. 0809 444 0981.
Yes, there's no name to this message, but a question. How would the government or security agencies protect those that volunteer information about the perpetrators? Austin from Satellite says police are talking about the people of Southeast not willing to bring them any useful information. My question is, can they, that's the police, keep it secret and not expose the life of the informants to danger? We all know how our police officers behave. We've got more in. Yinka Bolu says, Justin, what exactly are these yearnings of the people? The Iron Throne in Aso Rock or Biafra? Because the only thing I see here are their leaders successfully twisting the facts for people who choose to be gullible. And now that's what we're seeing. Nobody has a monopoly on madness, and it's going to get to a point where madness will be handled madly, according to Yinka.
Well, we have this one from Tajuddin from Alimosho. He says, why would the people give them information when the police cannot protect themselves, much less the people that will give the information? And we also have this one in from BD. BDA says, good morning. It's amazing how easily groupthink can set in. There was a reason the states wanted to control the LG and LCDA phones in the first place. Think about the caliber and competence of the people at that level. Moving the control should be accompanied by minimum standards like educational or professional accomplishments. Be careful what you ask for, otherwise you'll be doing a 360-degree.
Okay, and we have got more stories to bring to you for
right before we get into the stories. Let's look at this one from Victor Shion. He says, if in their wildest dream IPOB eventually gets Biafra, is this how they will rule their people? In fear and predation. He also says, if IPOB and ESN is innocent, let them spearhead the tracking down of the unknown gunmen. Let's look at an article in from the Premium Times newspaper. This one is with new healthcare charge, Nigeria's phone call tax up 300% in 3 years. Now, with the introduction of the new tax on phone calls to fund provision of healthcare to vulnerable Nigerians, sundry taxes on telephone calls in Nigeria shot up by 300% in the last 3 years. And the taxes include a 5% excise duty placed on telephone recharge cards and vouchers, 9% on healthcare levy, and 7.5% value added tax. Wadi, 300% in 3 years with all of the things happening.
In a country,
Go ahead.
in a country where today a lot of business is done using data and voice, online businesses. What has happened over the last 3 years that will indirectly increase the prices of things across board. The health care tax or the healthcare bill, it's a good idea. However, when it is limited to just a group, then what then happens is at the end of the day, cost of business is going to go up. We've seen it with the education tax that have been levied on companies. What has happened to it? Nothing. We haven't seen the improvement in education, and it's probably going to be the same. So at the end of the day, for me, yes, the idea is good. Will the implementation work? Yes, they will get the money. Will they actually spend it on what they need to spend it on, which is primary healthcare provision? I'm not sure about that. Let me end that way.
Okay, and very quickly, let's take this one in from hold on one second, Guardian newspaper. Emefiele withdraws suit against INEC and AGF over presidential bid. Justin, I'm coming to you for this. Can you just give us a brief breakdown?
Well, I'm glad that there seems to be sanity returning into the hallowed central bank of the country. Mr. Emefiele has withdrawn his suit challenging the INEC and the Attorney General to preventing him from running for office and running for president and remaining in his office as central bank governor. I don't know how he was counseled to even file the original suit in the first place, but he has withdrawn the suit, and the presiding judge has accordingly struck it out, and we all live happily ever after.
All right.
Okay.
Let's see some of the messages again. Ken from Lekki says, how does the GDP growth translate to reduction in the unacceptable poverty and inflation pervading the land? Quality of life going to hike in the price of almost everything in our polity, and people are suffering. Not sure government people care nor doing much to arrest the situation. How would the government or security agencies protect those that volunteered information about the perpetrators? And we have also got this one in from Bamidele. It says tax for NHIA was not signed into law. It was removed before PMB signed. Okay.
Okay, Cisco Delgado says, see no evil, hear no evil, say no evil as far as whistleblowing is concerned. As Tunji says, the Niger Delta is different. Their agitation affected the economics of the country. So we say at a table, these other ones are just people, no economic benefits to the powers that be.
Wow.
And you say, wow, what are you thinking
It's
now?
just wow. I'm amazed.
Well, Austin comes in with a message. He says, please, talking about the people of Southeast not willing to bring useful information to them. My question is, the police, do they keep a secret and not expose the life of the informants to danger? Okay.
And let's see, we've got this one in from Timmy Tokwe Peter Sr., who says, I totally disagree with your analysis on the security situation in the Southeast, with your analyst suggesting offering amnesty to a rogue sect who are bent on destroying the region because they feel, and he puts in quotation marks, marginalized. They want power served to them in a dispensation they tagged as a zoo regime. I pity the innocent lives lost due to their barbaric acts. And we have more messages, but we can't take any more of them. We do thank you for sending them in. You can continue we can continue a conversation because we'll have Lagos Talks at 9 o'clock, and that's where we get to really dig into what you have to contribute to the conversation. So thank you, and that's all.
All right, you can catch our analyst on Twitter. It's Wade Ehime _ on Twitter and at Justin EJ. Well, you can get down to our Twitter page at Smooth981FM. Of course, we did tag them in there so you can follow directly. My name is Victor Pepple.
I'm Shopper Martin, and coming up at 8:15, we've got the breakline for you.
There is no economic. That guy is a moron.